Okay, kids, time to do a pre-flight for just a typical flight you want to take anytime, anywhere. You do this anywhere, anytime. And airlines do this, private pilots do this. Everybody's done it forever since they started flying. Now, what you do to start a pre-flight is we're going to start inside the aircraft. I guess a couple of things we should look at here. One, these are the yokes that we were talking about, the control. Right now, the rudder is going up and down. If I move this, you got the yoke going out. Watch the rudder and back. Okay. I've got the side-to-side motion like this. And now you can see out the window, you see the ailerons going like that. And on the floor, these are the rudder pedals that I don't think I can get anything to move here. I don't know if you can see that. I have no idea. But those are the rudder pedals that control the yaw. So pitch, roll, and yaw on the floor. This lever right here is the mechanical flap lever. There's two notches to it. And so those flaps, right here we talked about before, if I do this lever, see that? Suddenly you got massive lift and massive drag coming for landing nice and smooth. Okay? So you get that pulled up. There's a fuel switch. You actually have to control the fuel. It's right and left. The right side tanks and the left side tanks. Turn that thing on, or you will have a really nice surprise in the middle of trying to taxi going somewhere. You turn that on and pull up the flaps, and we start doing a walk around for a pre-flight. Okay, so if we take a look here on each side, we've got these little things called sumps, and the sump is a little spot. And what I'm doing here is I let a little fuel out. And the reason why I do that is because you always want to check your fuel for water, particulates, crap, and whatever else. You let a little drip out, clean out, and that water, well, you take a look at it. If there's water in it, you want to do something, you get it cleaned out. You then walk around. That's one in that wing right there. You walk around, you check everything, feel, ailerons, flaps, go around, just feel all the structure, make sure it's all good, the struts are good. Down here, we've got two more sumps. There's one right here. And we take a look at the fuel. It's good. There's one underneath the engine here. Oh, God, I can't reach it. It hurts. Oh, my shoulder. Oh, God. Okay. That looks good. Dumpy. We then open up cowling. Check for birdie nests. Looks good. Check the oil. Everything I own has to have oil checked. Roughly around 6 quarts is about where this wants to be, and it's just under 6, which is fine with this one. Down to 5 is good. Little air bubbles on there. That's kind of bizarre looking. I've seen those before. So anyway, go ahead and close that up. So oil's good. Should we close the cowling back tight? Strap it down. Clunky. Again, look in for birdie nests. Make sure the engine's free. Oil cooler's got nothing in it. Walk around, check the other side. The ailerons, make sure the solid flaps. Check our pitot tube. There's no mud dauber nest or anything on here. This is going to be the ram air that's going to control your airspeed and a whole bunch of other instruments inside. There's another sump right here. Make sure that it's not got any water in it. Oh, why does it always have to hurt? Looks good. Dumpy. Check in here for birdie nests. See nothing in there. Check to make sure the horizontal stabilizer is good. Elevator feels good. Rudder feels good. This feels good. Okay. All right. Now we go inside. And we're going to start the booger up quick. All right. Oh, I'm going to get in. Get everything out of my pockets. Oh, there's not a lot of room. These things were built for people from the 1950s, and the human race has obviously gotten much larger. Okay. So just 1 second here. Put you guys in my little head strap here. Okay, so hopefully you see what I'm seeing in here. And I'm going to shut the door, make sure everything's in. Normally I put my headphones on. Take these headphones over here. These headphones over here. And what we always do is we follow a checklist. So it's an old crusty one, but we follow a checklist of what we're all supposed to have done when we fly. They do this all the way up to the astronauts, still do this kind of stuff. Before we go though, a couple things about the instruments. What you see on the dash here for instruments is literally the same basic setup they've had an aircraft for almost a century. Lindbergh flew the Atlantic with almost the same basic setup in an aircraft. A couple of things. There's 6 main instruments we always look at in this thing. One of them being is your attitude indicator, or your horizon indicator. You've got right here, this thing's going to tell you what attitude you are in the air, turning right or left. Your altitude or altimeter, you're going to set this thing to the altimeter here at this field of 830. Your turn and bank coordinator right here, what that does, it tells you if you're banking correctly and there's a little bubble or ball in the middle of this fluid, it needs to stay between those little black lines when you turn. You have to make sure that that's okay. You know, your vertical climb, you got to make sure that's at 0. We're sitting here, it's pretty much at 0. Airspeed indicator, 0 knots. Your directional gyro, okay, those things. And then your tachometer right here, it tells you the RPMs of the engine. The idea is you've got to have all these things in balance. A couple of them that really are important, but you can fly without any of them. But a couple that I watch all the time: airspeed, and this baby right here, oil pressure, oil temp. That's just me because I use everything that's antique. Those are really important. This exhaust temperature right here tells you if the exhaust is getting kind of hot, if something's going on with the valves inside. All that's pretty basic. Right here we got a very simple radio, 2-band radio that we can look at 2 different bands at one time. It's really simple. And then over here is a transponder. This thing here will tell the different airports who I am and where I'm at and that kind of stuff. These are becoming, well, they're phasing them out, and I have to upgrade to a new system pretty quick here, or I can't fly into Madison. All right, so I've got everything done. I'm going to strap in my belt here. Okay. And I do everything multiple checks all the time over. Okay. What I do with that, what I mean is I always check my fuel, check everything, and we'll go through this really quick. All right. So the first thing it says here is the mixture's rich. What that means is going to allow the engine to have fuel, the carb heat, this little white thing right here, that is what goes to the carburetor, and it gives it cold air when you want to run normal and warm air when you want to land, so it melts any potential ice in the carburetor. This thing right here primes the engine. That one we don't need to use because the engine's already warm, but when it's cold, it actually pumps fuel into each cylinder, into each piston. Okay, throttle right here, this thing. I'm going to crank this thing just a crack. So hopefully when she starts up, I get to about 1,000 RPM. All right, magnetos. We want it on both. That means it's going to run both magnetos, okay? So you have it set there. I make sure my flaps are down. On the floor is a master switch. Turns all the electricity on. I know my fuel is on. Turn it like that. It's in. I can hear stuff starting to wing up. Biggest thing you gotta do, open the window and yell, "Clear!" Make sure nobody's out there, the dog's not around. And hopefully she fires up. Oh, yeah, baby. Listen to that purr. I immediately set it to 1,000 RPMs right here. I check my oil pressure is really good in the green. Temperature is climbing to about 100 degrees, which I want. And it's making electricity. I am now set to go ahead and do my run-up. So what we do with a run-up is before we take off, I'm going to show my window, is we now down here, we got a couple things we look at. We look at the flight controls, they're free and check. To take them all back and forth, move my rudders, I'm going to check, make sure that my flaps are working and everything's out there. Okay. We'll look at my flight instruments. Attitude indicator with the right wing is level. Altimeter is 830, what we're set at. Turn and bank coordinator, Balls in the middle, no bubbles in the fluid. Wings are level. 0-0 climb. Airspeed 0-0. My directional gyro is kind of funky, so we're gonna leave that. I got good pressure. I got amps. And now we're gonna check the magnetos. So what I have to do is run it up to 1700 RPM and to make sure that both sides are working properly. So I get it about 1700 RPM. And you can hear it drops on one, drops on the other. I'm starting to go ahead a little bit. My brakes didn't hold like I wanted them to. And then we pull the carb heat. Yep, and when the engine goes down a little bit, that means the warm air went in. And I am ready to take off, which I'm not gonna do because I don't like flying in crap weather. So later in the week when the weather's nice, we'll go up for a flight, land, and go from there. All right, hopefully you got it, kids.